Once upon a time, in a green valley nestled between rolling hills, there were two villages that were almost like twins. Once upon a time, in a green valley nestled between rolling hills, there were two villages that were almost like twins. They were the same size, had similar houses, and even the villagers wore identical clothes. The only difference between them was a sparkling river that flowed right through the center, separating them into the village of sunshine and the village of moonbeams. The river was wide and swift, and there was only one narrow bridge to cross it. But the bridge wasn't safe. Villagers had to take turns walking across the rickety planks, holding onto each other for balance. It was quite a challenge, especially for the smallest and the elderly. So naturally, the villagers hardly ever visited each other. Over time, the only visitors to the bridge were birds and fish. But there was one kind-hearted soul named Bunny who refused to let the river keep them apart. Bunny was a small rabbit with big dreams. Every morning when he woke up, he would hop out of his burrow and gaze at the river that separated his family and friends from their loved ones. He watched the children cry as they waved to their friends on the other side, and sighed as elderly rabbits could only dream about visiting their old pals. One day, Bunny couldn't take it anymore. "I'm tired of this river ruining everyone's happiness," he said to his mom as she baked carrot muffins. His mom, a wise rabbit with twinkling eyes, simply smiled and said, "You can't fill a river with your sadness, Bunny, but maybe you can build a bridge with your kindness." Confused but determined to do something, Bunny hopped all the way to the bridge. He looked around to see what he could do to help. Then his eyes fell on a small pile of pebbles by the riverbank. "Maybe I can make a path across the river," he thought. And with that, he picked up a pebble and started hopping towards the middle of the river. Now, you might think that a tiny rabbit carrying a little stone isn't much of a sight. Well, you're right. In fact, it was pretty funny to anyone who saw him. Some rabbits snickered and said, "Look at Bunny acting like Binky the Great Builder." Others just shook their heads and went about their business. Bunny was so focused on his mission that he didn't notice any of them. All he could think about was how happy his friends and family would be once they could visit each other freely. So day after day, Bunny carried pebbles from the riverbank to the middle of the stream. He worked tirelessly, arranging the stones into a small path. After weeks of effort, the path looked more like a goat track than a proper road. Yet Bunny didn't stop. He kept going until he had laid down hundreds of stones. By now, some of the villagers started paying attention. "What's Bunny doing over there?" they wondered. Many still scoffed, thinking it was just another one of Bunny's silly ideas. But a few kind-hearted rabbits made their way to Bunny and asked how they could help. "Just carry stones," said Bunny with a smile. "We'll make a proper bridge together." That's exactly what they did. The whole village turned out to help. Big, strong rabbits carried heavy rocks, while the young ones scurried around gathering pebbles. Everyone pitched in, working side by side to lay stones on the riverbed. Day after day, the path grew wider and stronger, connecting the two sides of the river. Months passed, and the bridge became a reality. It wasn't made of fancy materials or held up by magic spells. It was just a simple stone bridge built with determination and teamwork. When it was finished, a crowd of rabbits gathered by the river. They cheered and applauded as the first rabbit cautiously hopped onto the bridge. Moments later, the rabbit reached the other side. He turned around and waved, a huge smile on his face. "It really works," he shouted. Suddenly, everyone wanted to try the bridge. Excited squeals filled the air as families and friends rushed to the new bridge. They crossed over, some hand and paw, others leaping with joy. For the first time in a long time, the villages came together. That day, the banks of the river were filled with laughter and celebration. The rabbits feasted, sang, and danced under the moonlight. They had rebuilt not just a bridge, but also their connections and friendships. As the party wound down, Bunny sat on the edge of the bridge, watching the sparkling river flow below. He was exhausted but happy. Looking at the smiling faces around him, he knew his efforts had been worth it. Just then, his mom nuzzled him, her eyes shining with pride. "You brought everyone together, Bunny," she said softly. "You built more than just a bridge. You built bonds of friendship and trust." Bunny blushed and looked down at his paws. "I was just doing what you told me, Mom," he mumbled. His mom chuckled and nudged him playfully. "That's true, dear Bunny. You just took my advice and turned it into reality." From that day on, the bridge became the heart of the community. Every day, rabbits from both villages crossed the bridge to visit friends and neighbors. The young ones played games on the wide planks, while the elders exchanged stories under the shade of the trees nearby. The bridge became known as the Little Bridge of Trust, a symbol of how small acts of kindness could bring people together. Years passed, and Bunny watched with joy as generations of rabbits used the bridge. He saw families grow, friendships deepen, and new connections form because of the Little Bridge of Trust. As he grew old himself, Bunny's fur turned as white as snow, but his heart remained as warm as ever. He continued to live by the river, telling stories to the young rabbits about how he had helped build the bridge. And every time he told the story, the young ones would gather around, hanging on to his every word. They would ask him questions about the old days, and Bunny would answer patiently, his eyes twinkling with memories. He loved sharing his story because it reminded him of the importance of kindness and perseverance. One day a young rabbit hopped up to Bunny. He was collecting stones by the riverbank, just like Bunny had done all those years ago. "Mr. Bunny," the young rabbit asked, "why did you work so hard to build the bridge? It seems like it must have been very tiring." Bunny smiled and looked at the stones in the young rabbit's paws. "It wasn't just about the hard work, little one," he said softly. "It was about building trust. See, without trust, we can't really connect with others. We build trust with every small act of kindness, just like laying these stones one by one. It may seem like a small thing to carry a stone, but when we do it together, it creates something big and beautiful, just like this bridge." The young rabbit thought about this as he continued collecting stones. "So you're saying true connection isn't built overnight?" he said slowly. Bunny nodded, his eyes shining. "That's right, little one. True connection is built one small act at a time, just like the Little Bridge of Trust." And so, the tradition continued. Every year, the rabbits would gather by the river to collect stones. Didn't matter if it was winter or summer, sunny or rainy. They would gather together, remembering Bunny's words. They carried the stones to the bridge, making sure it stayed strong and sturdy for many years to come. As the seasons changed and the years went by, the Little Bridge of Trust became a place of even deeper connection for the rabbits. For they understood that just like the bridge, their relationships needed care and attention to thrive. But they were willing to put in the work because they knew the rewards would be a lifetime of friendship, trust, and happiness.